We don't need to track our kids more. We need to track our kids less. We need to let parents be parents and do their thing. And so, no, I don't want the state oversight, big brother concept implemented in the state. So there was a bill actually that was passed. It was Senate Bill 942 and a companion bill on it, Senate Bill 991, which was in our higher education about anti-Semitism quote. So let me be clear on that. There is no definition put in our law about what anti-Semitism is. And therein lies the problem. When you start trying to define that, and the author actually referred to it as hate speech. And I very quickly went to it and said, there's no such thing as hate speech. Hate speech doesn't exist. The First Amendment covers dumb speech, hate speech, smart speech, intermediate speech. It protects all of it. For a state to try and define it, and this is getting pulled off of Trump's executive order, but actually in his executive order, it was much better written, and it wasn't what this is. And even in Trump's executive order, I've got questions on that, by the way, because we're getting into the thought police when we get into stuff like that. So we got to be very, very careful. There's a very thin line here. But in that bill, they don't actually define anti-Semitism. They just use a website. They go to an organization, the International Holocaust Association, something like that. I'd have to go back and read exactly what it was. What the definition is. The definition is incredibly loose. The biggest problem with it is when you go down and look at what this organization, where we took that definition from, and now they're trying to put it in our law, they said an example of anti-Semitism, according to that definition, is that it would be anti-Semitism to say that Jesus was killed by Jews. Let me repeat that just to make sure. Their definition of anti-Semitism is that it's anti-Semitic to say that Jesus was killed by the Jews. Every pastor in the state of Oklahoma, every college campus, every BCM that uses the Bible now would be guilty of violating this law by stating a fact that Jesus was killed by Jews. And so it is highly, highly problematic. But then if you go further down in the bill, it has a DEI component to it where it says that we're going to track and make sure that the Title VI, the federal government, is going to oversee this and make sure that you're complying to this, that everybody's doing this, and it's all being spread equally. And then it says it's going to go in there and say that you have to report to Title VI about how many of these you've had and what you've done about them and all of those kinds of things. So there is a definite reporting and tracking component to that as well.
And that passed the Senate floor.
Yes.